So welcome to our CI Leading the Way webinar. We're really kind of excited about this one. It's a unique topic, but also it's an exciting one for us. So today we're going to be covering our CI proprietary decision matrix. So what we'll actually be going over is the EEOC, or Equal Employment Opportunity Commission guidelines, New York State Corrections Law, Article 23A, and how to use our decision matrix.
Thanks, Patricia. So most of you are here today as HR professionals. You're tasked with protecting your organization and its employees from discrimination. Our decision matrix is just the tool you need to do that when it comes to adverse information in your background investigations. So thanks for joining us today. I recently, on Monday and Tuesday, attended our Professional Background Screening Association's annual conference virtually, and there actually was a session about diversity and inclusion in background screening, and the EEOC was one of the panelists there. So this is timely, even though it's a revision of something we've had around for a while, the decision matrix. This is a really timely session. So with us today is Rachel. Rachel is an investigator with us. She also heads up our marketing. She spends more than half of her time on our marketing and inbound business development, that kind of stuff. Then we have our three leading ladies. This is our lead investigator group. They're under Craig Wiggin, who's our director of operations. So we have Yvette Austin, and she's our lead when it comes to verifications like employment, education, reference, also drug testing and fingerprinting. She also heads up all of our client service initiatives. Then we have Brittany Timber. Brittany is our initiator, so she starts all your backgrounds. When you send them in, validates the information, checks the results on the first social security number, address verifications, adds the rest of your inquiries off of your policy for you. She also heads up our client maintenance when it comes to your emails, like to the staff at Commercial Investigations email account and call-ins, and a lot of client communications Brittany's involved in. And then there's Patricia Riley. Patricia is our lead criminologist. She heads up all the criminal inquiries and the criminal team, which is pretty deep these days, dealing with digging us out of all the court closures during COVID. And we're on our way, we're almost there to be totally out. Patricia also heads up our healthcare inquiries and our cyber investigations, which she'd love to talk to you about. So if you haven't heard about our cyber investigations and you want to chat, Patricia's the person for you there.
Thanks, Michelle. And it's actually my pleasure to introduce our special guest, which is Michelle Payan today. Michelle is our president of our company. She founded CI 16 years ago. On top of being an avid golfer, she's a licensed private investigator, which under New York State, we have to be in order to run our background investigations, but there's most CRAs, or consumer reporting agencies throughout the United States, don't have that extra licensed private investigative license in there. So it's kind of a unique situation for us. On top of that, she also worked with the New York State Sheriff's Association to develop our proprietary Pointer File New York and Cursory Indicator New York, which really allows us to dig into those New York records without having to fully commit to running the Office of Court Administration statewide search. So thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Patricia.
Okay, so what is the EEOC guidance, the Equal Opportunity Commission? So when I was first exposed to this, I kind of thought, what does the EEOC have to do with our background investigations? So I actually reached out to Michelle to kind of get a better understanding of this and how it actually relates. So Michelle, would you please share your knowledge with our guest today?
Sure, thanks, Patricia. There's a lot involved when it comes to the EEOC guidance. What we're specifically referring to is the EEOC Guidance 2012 Enforcement Guidance on the Consideration of Arrest and Conviction Records in Employment Decisions under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. So basically, EEOC guidance is not law, but the EEOC enforces Title VII, which is law. So they provide guidance for you as employers in order to make sure that you're abiding by the law and not discriminating under Title VII. So that's where their guidance of 2012 came in. So with this, they talk a lot about individualized assessments. So essentially, when you get adverse information in your background checks, and their guidance is centered a lot around criminal information, but we're going to include other adverse information as well, because our decision matrix will help you just keep everything organized. But basically, they talk about an individual assessment, and they talk about different things you should go through in doing an individual assessment. And it's really recommended that you consider the individual assessment, even though it's not required every time. It's just consistency, and consistency leads to non-discriminatory practices in what we're gonna show you here. One of the things they talk about is informing the individual that they may be excluded when it comes to the criminal records you have. And basically, without saying it, what they're talking about here is the pre-adverse adverse action process, which is part of the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act. It's all automated in our system. If you're not familiar, please reach out. We'd love to show it to you. We also have recordings on it as well. So they don't call it by name, or they don't reference the FCRA in when they talk about it, but essentially you're complying with that piece of the individual assessment by doing the pre-adverse action notice. So as you know, Title VII prohibits discrimination in like race, color, religion, a lot of different situations. And it has been shown that Hispanic and Black Americans are arrested disproportionately to white Americans. And so they want to make sure that you're not discriminating by having like a blanket policy that says we're not going to employ anybody who's been convicted of a misdemeanor or a felony. So that's where you do the individual assessment. You don't have a blanket policy. And that's really what we're going to get into a little bit today. Rachel's going to show you a little bit more about the guidance. So on your own, you can go and take a look if you want with that. So thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. So the EEOC has their government website has a detailed guidance document. It's really easy to find by just searching EEOC enforcement guidance. It'll be the second link down, and it's super detailed and also breaks it up into sections as well. These are all hyperlinks that you can go to each section on it. So it's all right there available just with a simple Google search.
So I also kind of want to explore the New York State Corrections Law, Article 23A, and its relationship to licensure and employment of people who are previously convicted of one or more criminal offense. So kind of like after Michelle went over the EEOC information with me, I was like, well, isn't that basically the same thing as Article 23A? So Michelle, would you also enlighten our audience like you did with me?
Sure. Great assessment there, Patricia. So yes, when the guidelines of 2012 came out, our clients that were not New York based, were global in scope, this was new to them. They were like, what do we do? How do we do this? And essentially, it talks a lot about requirements that are part of Article 23A. So New York State employers have been very familiar with this for years. A lot of people think that Article 23A of the correction law has been around since 2008, but it actually in 2008, what passed was an amendment to the law, which is like, I believe from the late 70s, maybe early 80s. So Article 23A has been around a long time, but since 2009 was the effective date. The law passed in 2008. You as an employer have to post Article 23A, like with all your other postings and stuff like that. So this is a good time to just double check that you're doing that, or make a note for when you're back in the office that you've done that. So that's why a lot of people associate 2008, 2009 with Article 23A, but it's really been around a long time. And it requires that individual assessment we're talking about, where you look at a certain set of criteria. How long has it been since the crime was committed? How old was the person when the crime was committed? How does the crime relate to the job description that they're seeking to get? That kind of stuff. One thing I do want to point out that Article 23A is specific about is it does not protect an individual from an intentional misrepresentation. So if somebody has falsified their hiring documents and then you get a background check and you have adverse information, you can disqualify them based upon that intentional misrepresentation and not have to go through the individualized assessment or Article 23A. But one other piece of Article 23A that's not really part of like the EEOC guidance or other recommendations, if the individual requests information about their denial of employment to you, within 30 days, the employer needs to respond in writing. So please be aware that if somebody's asking about certain things that happen with their background check, like say in relation to a adverse action, you have to do in writing a response to them within 30 days of their request. So a lot of people that kind of gets lost or they forget. So if you've got some policies, procedures, you might want to just make sure that that's noted in there. Rachel's going to show you a little bit about that posting and an employer guide we found.
Yes, so in CIware, under docs and forms, once you've logged into your account, there's a ton of docs and forms in here, but one of them is the corrections law for New York State and the poster. So this is something that you can print and hang in your office whenever you are there. So you can find that right here. You can also find it on our website under resources and employers. There's a couple of documents on here. One is the poster, but then there's also the New York State Article 23 employer guide. And this gives you like a run through of example scenarios, and it was put together by CUNY students as additional guidance documentation for employers to use. So it's a lot of great info in there. And again, you can find that right on our website above the poster.
All right, that was great. I love that. Nathan, that was, I laughed very loud just now, so I'm glad I was muted. So I kind of wanted to explain what my relationship with the decision matrix was. I've been with the company 5 years today, and I've been in the industry for 7, but I've been with the company for 5 years, and I didn't know a lot about Article 23A and what this decision matrix was when I entered the company. I was like, I knew that it got put into like our welcome packets for our clients. I think my first relationship with it was when Michelle was doing a presentation. I might have been there for 2 weeks, and we all had to sit and watch Michelle give this presentation, and she was talking about the decision matrix. So I have a ridiculous need to like know everything about everything. So I started looking into it, and it's useful when I'm doing the criminal stuff, especially with the compliance, and also helping our clients kind of help them with those decisions based on questions I get about the criminal information that comes back on the background investigations. So Michelle, can you kind of go over why we suggest using this decision matrix for our clients?
Sure. So, you know, one of the things, of course, is really timely now, and I've talked a little bit about that, but with diversity, inclusion, equality, and stuff like that, you know, you might be being asked by individuals within your organization, what are we doing? What can we do? And you could be like, we got this tool from our background screening company, Commercial Investigations. Give us a little tip there. And then you can let them know that it helps to avoid discrimination and to make sure you're treating people equitably. So basically, there's a couple things. It treats applicants with similar criminal records consistently. It avoids using an employment policy or practice that excludes people with certain criminal convictions, because you do an individual assessment, and it determines how the applicant's criminal history relates to risks and responsibilities of the job. So with that, you know, Patricia's going to show it to us along with the sample report and help you to see how we would document and use the decision matrix. And one thing to keep in mind now, we have given it a facelift and basically merged the Article 23A requirements with the EEOC guidance. So sometimes you'll see very similar verbiage, but one is Article 23A and one is EEOC guidance. So if anybody like starts to audit you or they're looking at one or the other, the verbiage is going to be very similar, so you can kind of tell where it came from, and you can justify like your utilization of the decision matrix as well as how you utilized it as well. But it's not designed to print. You'll see why and stuff. It's more a live working spreadsheet document. So Rachel's going to show you that, and then Patricia's going to walk you through a little bit with the report.
Okay. And I also wanted to share quickly too that you can find this document in CIware as well, the decision matrix, right in the docs and form section too. It's the very last thing on here as well. So that'll download into an Excel spreadsheet, which looks like this. Can y'all see? Oh,
No, we don't see your screen.
I apologize. So here it is in CIware at the very bottom, decision matrix. And then this is the Excel spreadsheet that it shows up as. And it's very long. There's a lot of different columns to capture all of the necessary information. So it's not super printer friendly, but definitely a really great tool.
Thanks, Rachel.
Welcome.
All right, I'm going to take over. Okay. So I also have the decision matrix pulled up. You're not seeing double. But I actually pre-filled it with some information. I have a sample report that I'm going to pull up for you in just a moment, just to kind of show you how we can actually use this and how useful this is. So here's my kind of sample report. This individual applied for Upstate Kids Camp to be a camp counselor, our friend Due Diligence here. And in this report, we do have some criminal hits as well as credit, because I did want to show something other than criminal. You will notice in your reports that we do have, the origin, and then you'll see multiple searches relating to those inquiries and those criminal hits. So origin is our source a lot of the time, and then we do additional research. So we'll add in those counties, statewide, developed criminal records, sometimes sex offender registry, depending on what kind of information we get back. So the origin doesn't necessarily have all the information, but those additional inquiries give you those additional details. So in here we have 2 criminal hits that are passable. We have an aggravated assault, a felony from Ohio, and then we also have a facilitating sexual abuse with a controlled substance from New York State. So in there, I'm going to actually go back to my decision matrix and look at my first column. So my first column is, what is the request number? We have it just as the request number to kind of give that protection of privacy of additional identifiers in there. So it's not on the physical report, but it is right here at the top when you open up the report in CIware. So I just used that, copied it, and put it into my spreadsheet. And then what is the type of adverse information? Well, back in my report, it is criminal and credit. So then it starts asking some additional questions. If it's criminal, how many convictions are there? There's 2 in my sample report. And then what were the level of convictions? And for both of these are felonies, but you would go through and kind of determine which ones were misdemeanors and felonies. The next column shows description of convictions, charges that they were convicted of. This can be as detailed or as minimal as you want. I went for the minimal. I just put assault/sexual abuse. So the next section here we have, if it's not criminal, what kind of inquiry is it? So this one is credit. And then again, what makes this one adverse? And again, you can make this as detailed as you want, or you could just do what I did, which was there's 5 negative previous, 1 current negative, and 1 in collections. And I'll actually go over that really quick in the report because our credit report has this beautiful little summary right here. So here's our credit report. We have this little summary at the top. It tells you what's currently negative, how many are previously negative, if anything's in collections. And then if you want more detail, that's when you can actually go in and check the additional information in the credit report. Now we actually get into the use of the guidelines that we have put in for Article 23A in the EEOC. I'm going to scooch this over. So is there a direct relationship between the previous offenses and the license or employment sought? For this one, like I said, my individual applied to be a camp counselor at kids camp. Yes, they have a sexual abuse conviction, so it is directly related. You can use the or if they're already an employee would continuation of employment involve an unreasonable risk to the safety of your property or welfare of the individuals? Again, I put just for purposes of displaying, yes, if they were actually a current employee and then they were convicted of this, yes, that would be a direct correlation. The rest of the columns that you'll see throughout the rest of this are things to consider, and definitely things that I would bring up with your legal team and higher ups to kind of make sure that you understand the policies as well as develop like a very secure reason. I'm just gonna quickly go over what these different columns are, but you can definitely get into them more. So is the information inaccurate? These are things to consider based on not just the facts of the report, but like what are we going through? Was the person misidentified? Are they going to dispute the information? Are they going to dispute the accuracy? So that's definitely something to think about. What's your company policy on hiring individuals with criminal record? What's the policy of the state? Is it going to affect their duties or responsibilities? Does it affect their ability to complete the tasks, or is it going to negatively impact their performance or the individuals? How much time has occurred between them? In my actual report, I have my windows are jumping around on me. The sexual abuse case they were sentenced in 2017, so that one's only 3 years old, whereas the other one is over 10 years old. That assault is from 2009. So how long ago was the actual offense? Scroll over a little bit. What is the nature of the position? In this case, they're directly correlated because it's a kids camp counselor and a sexual abuse offense. How old was the individual at the time? The seriousness of the offense, facts surrounding the actual offense. A lot of times we can get original complaints, and you can actually read that information from the court to develop a better idea of what was happening at the time. Is there evidence that they might be able to be rehabilitated? How is their actual consistency of employment before and after the offense? Their references going through, are they able to continue to perform well? Are they a bonded individual? Are you protecting the welfare of your individuals and the general public? And then a couple other things, thinking about the certificate of relief from disabilities. Do they have that? How does that affect them? And that usually people will get that a lot of times confused with that's going to be sealed. It just means, hey, they paid their due. They did what they were supposed to. This is a document that says, it shouldn't completely preclude them from getting a position. So that's just kind of a quick way to use this. And what's nice is this is a working document. You can save it. Anything under this red line, this is all yours. You can go through and use it and use it and use it, going through for each person that you need to consider. So that's why we have it as a spreadsheet, because it's a workable document. This is a really useful tool in making compliant hiring decisions, and something that we definitely want to provide for our clients, which is why we've now put it in our software for you to download.
Thanks, Patricia. That was a lot of good information from you and Michelle. So right now we'd like to open it up for questions from any of our guests, because again, we know that was a lot. So please let us know if you have any questions. Michelle and Patricia would be happy to answer for you right now. Okay, so I have a question here. So can an individual customize the decision matrix?
Sure, Ken. This is just a tool to provide you a way to comply with both the EEOC guidance and, if you're a New York State employer, Article 23. It's your document to do what you want with. You could share it with your legal team, your HR management, that kind of stuff. Just something we took the time to put together and wanted to present how useful it would be in this day and age with everything that we're dealing with.
Thanks, Michelle. One other question. So you had talked about things to consider, one being criminal convictions. So how long ago the conviction was? So is there a best practice? Like, how long would you recommend?
Oh, that's a tough question to answer, Yvette. It really depends upon your industry and the philosophy within your organization. You know, I've had people say, well, we only want criminal record that's within the last 7 years. And I'm like, what if it's rape? What if it's murder? And then there's a hesitation on the line. And then the person's like, okay, I'll get back to you. And they never change the policy. They want everything we can report. You know, it really depends upon the type. Now, the beauty of the decision matrix is you're not just documenting that one situation you're working through, but you're documenting them all so that you or somebody later on, say there's a change in personnel or something, they can see what past decisions were made on behalf of the organization. So you're treating everybody similarly and not discriminating. So, and you're doing that individual assessment. So there's a lot of moving pieces with you using the decision matrix, but you'll be able to kind of make those decisions. Like you're looking at, okay, this person's going to be a driver and they have a DUI that's 5 years ago, but 3 years ago we hired somebody that had a DUI 4 years ago, and it's the same position, so we should hire this person then. So at that point, somebody made a decision, and you can document at the time why people made certain decisions, and then that'll just help you make decisions further on. But that goes to show, like, just imagine if somebody said, how can you prove you're not being discriminatory? And you whip out the decision matrix and it's got years worth of adverse information analysis right there for the person. You know, what better way to present that and to prove that you were not discriminating and you took this very seriously and you did do the individual assessments. You can tell I really love this tool.
Thanks, Michelle. Does anybody else have any questions at this time?
I guess I have one. So the big thing that comes up on ours would be credit reports. You know, we're a financial institution, so we do look at that and we take a look. And I didn't catch if you had spots on there for that or specific questions related to that. But do you have any best practices around sort of evaluating credit reports?
Mm-hmm. I think, you know, that summary that Patricia showed you that shows up in our credit report. So that that's the same for everybody. So like, are they currently negative accounts, past negative accounts, that kind of stuff. So you kind of can start to gauge those based on then what's the position. So it's going to be really important, you know, what the position is and will it vary, you know, does this person, you know, is this person likely to be tempted as a teller versus say maybe a loan officer that never handles money and stuff like that. So you might have different criteria based upon the actual position. So you might want to watch if you want to do some trends that way. Credit, it's a little, you still want to be careful discriminatorily and stuff, but as an financial institution, you have a lot of latitude with decisions there because you really have to protect your organization and everybody's money. So.
Yep. Thank you.
And I'm available to work through this with anybody at any time. Like if you wanted to start using this and you wanted to set up a meeting with me and your team every time you go through this for the first 5-6 times and just to have some insight from somebody who's had years of experience with it, please don't hesitate to call on me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Anyone else with questions at this time? All right. Looks like we're just about going to wrap it up. I'm going to turn it over to Brittany.
Thank you, Yvette, and thank you, Nathan, for those great questions. So we do have a disclaimer. So the information provided in this presentation does not constitute legal or compliance advice. It is for information and discussion purposes only. When considering implementing our decision matrix procedure, it is highly recommended to consult legal counsel. This presentation may not be reproduced without the written consent of the author.
As a note there, the recording will be online on our website. So if you have colleagues you want to see, you want to have them see this, the recording will be up in about 48 hours.
So our contact information is up, our phone number, our 800 phone number. We also have a 518 phone number, our staff at Commercial Investigations email address, and then Michelle has personal contact information. The phone number is shown, as well as her personal email address in case anyone needs to reach out to her personally. So now I'd like to thank you all for joining us. It's been really great to see you all today. Our next CI Leading the Way webinar will be held on October 13th at 2 p.m. And the topic that day will be background screening, trends and uses in today's global economy. So we hope to see you there. And as Michelle said, you can visit our website for more information and the webinar recordings at the link below. So thanks again, everybody. It was great to see you and have a great day.
Nice to see you guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Be well.
Thank you.
Thanks.